Thank you for joining the Pike County Chamber of Commerce Municipal Candidate Forum. I'm Dana Sanders, President of the Chamber. We would like to welcome Mayor Jason Reeves. All the questions we ask have been submitted by members of the Pike County Chamber of Commerce, and I'm the only one who knows which questions were selected. Each candidate will be asked the same questions in the same order as their opponent. And now for the guidelines. You will have 60 seconds to introduce yourself. You will have 90 seconds to answer each question. When you have 20 seconds remaining, I will hold up this yellow card. When you have reached the end of the 90 seconds, I will hold up this red card. If you would like, I can repeat a question. Just ask me to do so. At the end, you will have 60 seconds for a closing statement. Mayor Reeves, thank you for joining us this morning. Please take 60 seconds and introduce yourself.
Thank you, Dana. My name's Jason Reeves. I'm the mayor of Troy. I have been involved in municipal government now for 24 years. I spent 16 years on the city council and the last 8 as mayor. I'm born and raised in Troy. My wife Ellie and I have 4 kids, Will, Drew, Ben, and Kate. Will and Drew are off at school, and Ben is a senior this year, and Kate is entering the 7th grade. And I love my community. Like I said, been here all my life, and I'm just thankful for the opportunity to talk to you today.
Thank you. Do you support clawback provisions in economic development agreements? If not, why not? And if so, what specific clawback provisions do you think are important?
I absolutely support clawbacks and have implemented them in all the things that we've done in economic development. As you know, over the last many years, incentives have become a huge part of economic development. And as incentives have become important, it's very important to have clawbacks. And, clawbacks basically protect the taxpayer, the community, from having their money that is invested into an economic development project to make sure that that it's spent the way it's supposed to be spent. So it's important to have incentives, but it's important to have clawbacks and to have protections for the taxpayer. And so every project agreement that we do contains clawbacks. We try to make sure that the taxpayer is protected, that the company gets a fair shake, and that's just part of economic development. It's just the only way to go. If you don't, you leave yourself open to wasting the taxpayers' money.
Okay. The city of Troy's population is thriving, while many of these surrounding towns are shrinking. What do you feel is the reason that Troy is experiencing success when other towns of similar size are not doing as well?
We're having good growth because we've had tremendous success with economic development. We've been able to bring in good paying jobs. And the one thing about good paying jobs, when you bring them in, you grow your economic base and your wage base. So not only do the new jobs help, but they provide basically competition for everything that's here. So the workforce has a more competitive environment to thrive in, which brings people here. On top of that, it brings in people that want to do business here. So you get your quality of life type things. You get your grocery stores, your shopping centers, all the other things that a thriving economy does. And so that's really the thing that we've had in looking, especially in Southeast Alabama, where we've been so fortunate, is the fact that we've been able to do these things, and it attracts people here. So the longer the more jobs we can bring in, the better we can do, the better quality of life, the more people want to live here, the more construction happens and those kind of things. So it's definitely planned, and it didn't happen by accident.
The mayor is responsible for staffing the city. Are there any staff members that you would change after Election Day? If so, In what positions would you change personnel?
Well, I'm doing that. I'm in charge of that personnel right now. So if I had issues with personnel, they wouldn't be here now. There are I'm in charge of making. I'm the appointing authority for everyone other than four positions: the city clerk, the police chief, the fire chief, and the municipal judge. Everyone else, flows through me as an appointing authority. I think we have an excellent um, city. I think our city runs very well. Uh, I think we have wonderful people. I think when you see a lot of the issues that we've seen, just in this past year related to storms, COVID, other things, we've got a lot of people that work really hard to do a good job. So, um, and those are things that we constantly reevaluate, that we constantly look at. So I'm in constant communication with all of my department heads that I have and I would make this, I would clear this up. I'm in charge of the unclassified people. The classified people I'm in charge of as well, but they get due process after their probationary period is over. So classified employees uh, do not come and go with the mayor, but unclassified do.
The city has worked with the Chamber of Commerce and the school systems to establish a workforce development program at the high school level. In light of the fact that schools are governed by school boards and not the city council or mayor, what do you believe the role of the city government should be in the establishment of workforce development programs?
Well, a lot of what we've been doing, building relationships with, really just being a catalyst and a flow through for one example is what Whaley and the General Contractors Association have done uh, with the vocational school here lately, and coming up with trade programs. So the more we can build relationships with businesses, and then have those businesses reach out to the school systems and let them know what they need, then they can work together. And I think that's a key part of what we do, is get the businesses in here, uh, keep them thriving, give them a good business climate to do business in, and then provide the opportunity for them to tell the folks in education what they need, and provide for that. So that's the biggest thing, is the relationship aspect of those things, and keeping a good, strong business environment and allowing those ideas to flow back and forth.
The Chamber is recognized almost every year as a statewide leader in the annual Farm City event. What do you believe are the key programs in the annual Farm City event that you would continue?
Uh, I think the job swap is a really neat thing. I've been able to participate in that, and always know that there are people that that enjoy that. I think that's something that's been beneficial to many people. I think a lot of people forget that agriculture is the largest industry in Alabama, and it's a huge part of what goes on here in Pike County. And we've begun to create businesses here that are directly tied to agriculture. So Golden Boy Foods uses peanuts to produce their peanut butter. Rex Lumber uses timber, to provide their lumber. So I think it's a good program. Also getting young people involved and making sure that they understand what needs to be done in regards to agriculture. Uh, that there's a lot more to this world than a computer screen, frankly, and that what it takes logistically, and the hard work it takes to feed Alabama and to support the largest industry in this state. So I certainly applaud that program, have enjoyed being a part of it, and appreciate the Chamber doing it.
What matrix would you use to determine specific incentive amounts for economic development?
We look at several things. One of the biggest parts of what we do is the fact that we own our own utility system. So we know how much electricity, how much water and sewer an industry uses has a big factor in what we can do in regards to a matrix on an incentive. So if we know that we're going to be able to sell a certain amount of electricity to someone, that has a key aspect, and one of the things that gives us a tremendous advantage over most people. And then we look at the traditional things in regards to, you know, to what kind of tax revenue they're going to generate, what's the wage, what's the jobs, what do those numbers mean? But I think the thing that's really different about Troy than most places in regards to that matrix, most people are just looking at, what is this tax revenue going to mean? How long can we afford to do an abatement? Um, what sort of wage level do we need to make sure this thing works out? The fact that we have our own utility business really helps keep our rates low for our general consumers and allows us to incentivize the businesses that come in here. So that's a big part of our matrix that is unusual to Troy.
We have one of the lowest unemployment rates in the state, even during COVID. According to published statistics, wages here are higher than most other towns our size, while housing costs are lower. What factors do you think are most important in keeping our unemployment numbers low?
A great business environment and competition. I think that everybody that really wants a job in Pike County's got an opportunity to have one. We've got companies right now that that can hire a couple hundred people tomorrow if they were available. And so what that does, as I mentioned earlier, is it creates a competition for the labor. And if your labor is competed over, then your wage is going to increase, and your benefits are going to increase. So those are the things I think that have helped us the most, is that things are competitive, and that competition is healthy. It's also very unusually friendly. Our businesses and a lot of our big businesses and a lot of our chamber members understand that a thriving community, we've all got to work together. We may be competing for some of the same labor, but if our town doesn't have the opportunity to provide good benefits, good quality of life things, then that competition, in the end, everybody's going to lose. So I think those are the things that have really, are the biggest part of why we've been successful in those things, is bringing in more people and watching those wages rise.
Troy owns our own utilities, whereas other companies use power companies such as Alabama Power. Do you believe that owning our own utilities is an advantage or a disadvantage, and why?
It's a huge advantage. Very simply, Troy is the largest electric system in the state of Alabama that purchases its power wholesale on the open market. So what you have is you've got Power South to the south. You've got Alabama Power and Southern Wholesale Energy, which are subsidiaries of the Southern Company. Then you got TVA up north. And the fact that we have the ability to go out and do that has allowed us to keep our rates low. It's allowed us to invest in economic development. It's been a huge benefit for us because we're able to take advantage of the market. And right now, the market is, really low. Natural gas prices are very, very low. And, in some companies like Alabama Power, who diversified and did the right things, were actually punished by the federal government for being so diversified. So being able to take advantage of the market has really helped us a great deal. And the only real downside that we've been able to negate is we work really hard with the electric cities of Alabama and other people. And so you saw during the storm that when we had a bad situation where you would need a big parent company to come in and help you, our relationships with other cities allowed those people to come in and help us because we've helped them, and we were able to get folks' power back on really quickly.
Alabama is currently governed by home rule as a matter of law, and that impacts the way in which municipal governments in our state can legally govern their towns. Do you support home rule, and why or why not?
Well, I certainly support the home rule that we have now. All of the power that municipalities have is derived from the legislature. So, having home rule, just as an example, uh, you know, counties don't have home rule. So if there's an emergency type situation, they have to go to the legislature. We were in a situation not too long ago that we could have lost our hospital. And we were able to, because we had home rule, we were able to levy a tax, the only tax that I've ever voted for in my life, to save our local hospital. Home rule allowed us to do that. It allows us to provide police and fire protection, many other things like that. So, government should be as close to the people as it can get, and that's what I believe. I believe that uh, folks need to have a say in their government at the closest level. Uh, folks are a lot more likely to be able to interact with me and members of the city council than they are their Congress member or someone, or even their legislator in Montgomery. So home rule is important. It gives a power to the people where it should be, and it's certainly been beneficial to us.
A survey of Troy residents published by the Chamber last year dealt with education. It found that local funding for the Troy City school system was more per student than Enterprise, Coffee, Dale, Ozark, and Crenshaw County schools. Given the fact that our local funding is already so much higher, sometimes double what surrounding school systems receive from local funding, would you support a property tax increase to provide even more local funding to the Troy City school system?
No, absolutely not right now. I think that we have, it's really important that we make the best use of what we have. As you said, we have we're funded locally very well. I think that before you ever go to the taxpayer and say we need more, you've got to show where we've done everything that we can do to produce and provide the best that we can provide. And that's what a lot of what we did in regards to the study that the city paid for, uh, you know, for education. And I think that we got things that we need to improve on. But I think that that a property tax would fail miserably until we do everything that we can to make sure that we show the public that we're doing the right things the right way, and making every nickel go as far as it can go. And just throwing money at something is not always the answer. And sometimes it's the answer people want to bring up, but it's certainly not always the answer. And there are a lot of things that we need to do before we start talking about raising people's taxes.
It is important for our local representatives to let our state level representatives know what they support and do not support. There is a bill before the Alabama legislature that is being sponsored by Pike County Representative Wes Allen that would ban the prescription of puberty blocking or gender hormone altering medications to children in Alabama. Do you support this bill that would prohibit the administration of prescription drugs meant to prepare children to change their biological gender? And why or why not?
Uh, I would, I think the question is, would I support the bill? And that is the question, right? That
Yes.
I would support the bill that Representative Allen, I think he's pre-filed it maybe. Is
Yes.
that right? Yeah, absolutely. I would support that bill. You know, I wouldn't, I wouldn't dream of, that when you're talking about, uh, doing something in regards to prepubescent children, I don't. I got some real issues with that. So.
Representative Allen also sponsored a bill which would make the Alabama High School Athletic Association subject to audits by the Office of Public Examiners. Would you support that bill, and why or why not?
Yeah, I absolutely support that bill. That's something we've been talking about a lot over the years, and I think it's come up several times. I didn't realize that Wes had pre-filed that bill, but I'm glad he has, and I absolutely support, because what you've got is the Alabama High School Athletic Association uses public funds. They use public facilities. They do all these things, and you know, there should be accountability for public funds. You know, the folks that work the gates at high school football games are public employees. Um, so I've never felt like when you know, you ought to shine a light somewhere, and everybody ought to be willing to you know, let that light shine as far as I'm concerned. So you know, you know, I think that's very important. I think that you know, it's very reasonable for the taxpayer uh, to know what's going on. You know, and I think these, I want to say that all the folks that work up there are, you know, part of the public health system. They get PHIP insurance. They're part of the RSA. Um, and again, they're used, you know, they use public facilities, public people, public money. And it's very clear that, you know, I think that's a good bill, and I would support that one as well.
There have been efforts in the Alabama legislature to alter the business privilege tax. Such an alteration would uniquely impact chamber members that are all business owners. Would you support altering the business privilege tax?
I think I've been pretty clear about my stance on taxes. You know, we need to, you know, one of the things, if I'm reelected, that I plan to do in the next term is to make sure that we're doing everything we can with what we have to work together as a city and a county to make sure that things run smoothly and that the taxpayer is getting a full benefit of what they're being given. So before we start talking about any new taxes, we need to make sure we're that we're good stewards of what we have, period. And that's the way I feel. I think that, you know, with technology, with relationships, with working together, we can make a lot of these things go a lot further. And you know, and some of the problems that we have aren't going to be solved by the government and more taxes. They're going to be solved by time, you know, and people spending time on things that are important, you know, with their families and with their communities. So, you know, I'm just not, the first answer to me is never more taxes, period.
Mayor Reeves, you now have 60 seconds for your closing statement.
Well, Dana, I appreciate you doing this. I appreciate the chamber. It's been the honor of my life to serve as mayor. You know, I love this community. I am a fourth generation public servant. I was looking at pictures the other day where I took my first oath of office on the Bible that was my great grandfather's when he was a justice of the peace. My grandfather was utility superintendent. My dad was police chief. My mom, a teacher. My wife. Public service means a lot to me. This community has been good to me and my family, and I do this not because it's a title. I do this because I love my town and I want to make it better. And if I have that opportunity, that's exactly what I'm going to do.
Okay. This concludes the portion of the Pike County Chamber of Commerce Candidate Forum with City of Troy Mayor Jason Reeves. We hope that you have found this informative. Please remember to vote on August 25th. The polls are open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Thank you for your time, Mayor Reeves.
Thank you, Dana. Have a good day.
Thank you.